Listen up. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast belong solely to the podcast participants, and not to any participant's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. You know, for fun. So lighten up and enjoy. Oh, Stomping Jen. Mm-hmm. We are here again on the Soft Serve podcast, and we are going to be talking to a guest, a man who defies description. He has been on our podcast before. He goes by the name of Juicy D. Do you remember our previous conversation with Juicy? Yeah, I'm excited that Juicy came back to talk to us.
We always love when people come back.
Yeah, and Juicy proposed a really interesting topic for us to get into, which is the concept of online dating.
Sweet.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to talk about this subject. I have a lot of questions, as usual.
I'm sure you have a lot of questions.
And I will gather that Juicy D is going to have answers for us. Okay?
Yep.
All right. Are we ready?
We are.
All right. Let's go.
The Soft Serve Podcast.
Creamy, delicious ideas without the creepy truck. Stomping Jen and Juicy D are here today to talk to me.
What if we didn't want to talk to
Frank, you? Sawtooth Frank.
Oh my God.
My name goes well with chimes. Well, let's say hi to Juicy D. Hello, Juicy D.
Hello. I'm not gonna sing. That was beautiful to know.
Thank you. We'll give you one of these for complimenting me, of course. I always appreciate a compliment on the Soft Serve podcast. I love them.
Oh, yes.
Hopefully that will be the first of many. So Juicy, thank you for joining us. And I know you are an individual who defies description. It is very difficult to put rhetorical boundaries around you, but I'm going to ask you to add anything additional that you want to that I may have missed. Just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I love the idea of just being this mysterious, magical creature. I would say, black, queer, part Sasquatch, just
loves cats.
Yeah, love cats, beaches, especially if you combine the two. If you get the little cats that walk on the beach, I think that's the best. I would love that.
That is an entrepreneurial idea. They have those
cats on beach,
cat cafes, cat beaches.
Cat beaches.
Yes.
Those poor cats.
I like the idea. Okay. Well, thanks. And, throwing in the descriptor of Sasquatch does continue to add mystery, to you. You haven't completely clarified it. So,
what, the Sasquatch?
Anything. I mean, the Sasquatch is a mysterious creature.
It's true.
So,
just expect to see me romping through the woods at night, just catching minor glimpses.
Nice.
Well, thanks for joining us and for suggesting this idea of online dating. At first, I was a little taken aback. I was like, what are we going to talk about? But then I started actually thinking about all of the different angles we could go with this. Mm-hmm. And as usual, I came up with a long list of questions. But before we dive in, I first wanted to say, Stomping Jen and I are old.
It's true.
I'm almost 50, and this, I know, and this idea of online dating is foreign to me totally.
Did they have online dating when we
started
dating?
Yeah, I mean, they just started to. So for Juicy D's edification, you and I started dating in 1996.
Yes.
Which is a hell of a long time ago.
That is a long time ago.
And I don't know if they had a lot of online
Did they have
dating.
Match.com? Did that exist?
I
The internet wasn't really a thing in 1996.
No.
It was like you had to go to the carols at UMass and
this is
Umail and shit.
And this is a long-winded way of me getting about to the point is I'm actually coming to this topic as a truly naive person in the sense that I've never experienced online dating. So my questions come from this non-experiential place. I'm sitting outside of that world and
Right.
Stomping Jen and I, we did the whole traditional meet space, kind of you meet somebody, you drool at them from a distance for a while, think about asking them out, and then you have to ask them out.
I did drool. And then I lit my hair on fire to get your attention.
See, this is the world we come from, where you light your hair on fire to attract a mate.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I don't know if I've ever liked someone enough to want to light myself on fire.
I don't think it was intentional.
Yeah.
I think I was playing with my lighter.
So we're old. Our first date was this really traditional thing where I was like, "You want to go get lunch?"
We got dinner.
And we went to this Indian restaurant.
restaurant.
We sat down. We stared at each other awkwardly.
That's true.
Did we split the bill?
I don't know.
I don't know what happened.
I can't recall.
But it was
I think you abandoned me in the restaurant.
It was a very traditional date when you think about it.
I mean, you still have that. So my current partner, we had our first date, and it was at a Middle Eastern cafe, and we had coffee and food, and the coffee was really bad, and it burned both of our eyes just being around it, and we laughed at that and then ran away into the night.
Okay.
It still happens like that. It's just there are other options too if you want something else.
Yeah, and we are gonna talk a little bit about that. And when we think about online dating, I'm sort of framing this in two buckets. There are the sites out there that are kind of like OkCupid or Christian Mingle, if you're into that whole Christian thing.
What is it?
Plenty of Fish.
Plenty of Fish.
Yeah. We know people on Plenty of Fish, right?
Yeah.
So there's those, right? Those sites that are set up that are kind of there to facilitate, I think, in my mind, the more traditional dating experience, potentially. I've never been on those sites, so I don't know if there's a quick sex button or something on OkCupid. Maybe there is. And then there's this other form of digital or online dating in my mind that I think of, which are these meetup apps or quick or hookup apps, right? And they actually are categorized as geosocial.
Geosocial?
Yeah, apps for intimacy, right? Or
where you are?
Yeah, Stomping Jen. Another word for intimacy is sex.
Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that.
Yes.
I thought it just meant cuddling on the couch.
Yeah. And so
you're blushing.
I know.
He's sitting there I don't know how to put the words out there.
I don't. So examples of those types of apps would be Grindr or Tinder, right? And I think Grindr is a app that popped up in 2009 that was used in the queer space for at the time, men to see other men who might be interested in meeting up. So there's that. And then Tinder emulated a similar thing. So those are kind of what
Isn't Tinder the swipe left or right? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. There's a whole bunch of others. So there's I'm just going to throw it out and say gay guys are pretty, say enterprising. So there's Grindr, Growler, Scruff, Jax, Hornet, Like the list goes on, but they're all basically the same thing.
Growler sounds interesting. I like the name.
So Grindr is typically it's pretty open. Growler is more towards like the bear community. So older, larger, hairier guys. Scruff is sort of like hairy but really muscular guys. So they're like the wolves, the otters, some bears.
Otter.
Yeah,
There's wolves and otters.
Otters?
Yeah.
Oh.
So otters are typically thinner guys that are also hairy. And then the wolves, I don't know why I see them pop up, but it's like they're just like either like really dominant or aggressive hairy guys. I don't know what the distinction is there.
What is a non-hairy guy called?
Well, if they're younger, then they could be a twink. Or if they're like a little bit musclier, they could be a twunk, which is the twink and a hunk. They could be average.
I'm trying to figure out what Sawtooth Frank is because he's pretty hairless.
I don't think I'm thin enough to be a twink.
I don't think you could be a twink.
No. This is fascinating.
Personality-wise, you could still be like a daddy. You got the beard for it.
I am old.
I think I'm an otter. I have a lot of hair.
You could be an otter. You did your hair in a way today, Stomping Jen. I was telling you, you look like some kind of creature. So you have like ears on the top of your head. I like it. I have to say, I love the creativity, both of the names and kind of the descriptors of the different members of the community. It's very interesting to me.
It's this weird sort of boundary making that we have that everyone has to fit in. After being upset about fitting into boxes, we then create more boxes that people have to fit in.
Yeah. I was going to say, are they ever used like in a pejorative, negative way? And that probably isn't a good thing either, right?
Oh yeah, no, there's all sorts of like, there's always like in-group, out-group sort of stuff, which is weird. But especially like once you get into that online space where there's like a little bit of like a depersonalization, there's all the same, like all the things that are like negative in like straight dating happens in like queer and gay dating too. So like on Grindr, it's still unpleasantly common to see like no fats, no femmes, no blacks, no Asians as like a requirement in the profiling. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It happens, and it happens, I think, less in some of the other queer communities, but it's still, it's still a thing that pops up. So there's like, no, too fat, too hairy, or not hairy enough, or not fat enough, or not tall enough. It's all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And people are entitled to their preferences, but there has to be a nicer way to say those things, right? That's what I think I'm hearing here. And, if you may not be into a certain body type or, and you've got to be able, I think there's got to be a way to express that in an online platform that's not insulting or like intentionally hurtful to people, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's also, I think, one of the things that I think was supposed to be liberating about, queering up those experiences is that you get beyond that and you get to say like, no, I want to know the person. And like, maybe I should ignore some of the boxes that I've got, or think about and be really careful and intentional about how I'm structuring my preferences, right? Because preferences aren't, even though they feel deeply personal and inherent, they're not. Like society tells us what the standards are that we want. They give us the options to say, I'm attracted to this, not that, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And I think it's useful to at least question like our own preferences and just say, well, what am I attracted to and why? And then at least for me, it's keeping that in the back and saying like, well, maybe I should just talk to this person and see, maybe they're not what I would normally consider like attractive to myself, but there's something like it's worth getting to know them as a person. And then, hey, what do you know, that attractiveness stuff kind of falls away a little bit.
That's a really good point. One that I always miss the good points, which is that across time, right, what society tells us we're supposed to find desirable and attractive changes.
Right. It's true.
You know, like we see that reflected in art.
Yep.
Right, as a kind of a historical record of the images we're supposed to find. That was you stomping. Jen,
I know. I'm sorry.
Burping.
I didn't mean to make
Yes,
it so loud.
I find that incredibly
I'm
attractive.
sorry. Yes.
No, but yeah. So that is a really good point.
Well, like the
Juicy.
Botticelli women, that like were larger, more, girth to them as opposed to like the twigs. What are they? The skinny models from the
the wave mod.
From
Yeah,
the 90s, like twig. Like what am I talking about?
Waifs.
Waifs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Juicy D remembered that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, waifs.
Yeah, and that is I think in the point that Juicy D made here, right, is that I think most people, when you talk to them, would endeavor to want to look beyond the surface, right? Especially if they're interested in meeting a partner, right? For more than just sex, right? Like you would want to kind of look beyond the surface and try to and get to know a person more.
Right.
Now, do these apps allow for that kind of in their construction, and has the intention of the apps evolved or opened up to allow more than that? Like we were saying, these geo-social apps were, I think, initially started so people could meet up with each other more easily, maybe for casual sex encounters or whatever you want to call that. And have they evolved to allow more interpersonal connection, I guess?
Yeah, I would say probably not, but thinking about just thinking about like the sort of evolution, and like for myself, I remember, because I, wasn't too long after you were meeting that I was like hitting puberty, and like, but also like, all right, I'm online. What do? You go to like gay.com. I should say start off like I already knew I was queer really young. At the time I had 2 gay uncles. Like it was like I knew, everybody knew, it was fine. There was nothing surprising happening.
Can I just ask how young you, like at what age you thought you knew you were gay?
Oh, good Lord, Al. Forever. I mean, there's pictures of me like demanding, like I would demand to wear like my mother's shoes and necklaces and just be queering up everything. I had Barbies, Rainbow Brights, and Transformers, and they were all fighting. There was there was never like a real like, yeah, I was never gonna be like a normal a normal straight like little boy that just wanted to play with like G.I. Joe. So I would say like I was probably aware of it pretty early. I want to say like 6, 7, maybe even before that I like consciously knew.
Mm-hmm.
And because you had you said the 2 gay uncles in your family, was it easier for you to grow up as a child who knew you were gay that young?
I mean, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, just because like, my mother was fine with it. There was no, like, I wasn't like worried, like, oh, she's going to like disown me or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But also I guess just knowing like it's not some sort of like horrible, like death sentence to be queer. Like, I knew that like, it didn't mean that you grow up lonely or anything like that, because I saw, examples of long-term relationships, all those sort of things. I think it probably made it easier. I could have the role models that were like living people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I was terrible at in-person dating. Is online dating, like through these apps, easier in some way?
Oh, like I would say like 1,000% yes, because like it's only a screen, right? So like if you're sending messages out and you get rejected, whatever, it's not like you have to like look at that person,
Right.
like and hear that rejection. It's muted. Like if there's a rejection, it's probably going to be a text, like or some form of text being or message within the app. It's not like it's just so much easier. It's so much less risk, and like, and I guess this goes out there. You also don't have to focus on one person at a time.
Right.
You can send out a dozen messages at the same time if you want. In fact, Grindr has like they have like canned messages. Actually, most of the apps do, where you can either save messages or they have like pre messages for you, or they have like an option that's tapping or growling or woofing or whatever. So it just makes it easier to. You don't even have to say hi. You just like open up the profile, tap a button, and then move on and see if they respond.
So you could be like, "Hey, tap tap,
Woof.
woof."
Stomping Jen, we need to incorporate more growling and woofing into our romantic life.
We'd be terrible at this. We'd be like,
I mean, there's like, so like, let me open up. I know this is going to be a mistake because now I'm going to get like 1,000 messages, but whatever. So,
and we can, if you want, we can delete your username later if you want to. You tell us.
It'll be fine. I just wanted to like go because there's.
I don't think he was telling us his username.
Oh, okay.
No. I wasn't gonna. But like when you're.
I don't know where his mind just went there. Like, what did he think was going to happen?
I don't know. I thought he was going to open up an app and just tell us everything that was in there.
Oh, I mean, it can't. Like, I mean, if you want to see, like, hang on.
Yeah.
Let me turn off the blur.
All right, Juicy D is about to hold up his cell phone, and we're going to see something here potentially. I'm excited.
I mean, so this is the basic structure of it. So this one is Growler.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I see a bunch of faces. I see a
torsos,
torsos.
And then you scroll down and you find the person that you want.
There were bears. There were like bear emojis.
And now I have to add, behind Juicy D's cell phone is the most intricate and elaborate cat tree I've ever seen.
I love that we both noticed the cat tree.
This is an amazing juxtaposition of interests.
Oh boy.
Okay,
so I see that.
So then you get to the message, and then it's a little hard to see because there's text here. So you just have to pretend there's text.
Okay.
It's not a lot, but it tells you like how old they are, their height, weight, race, their dating status, what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. And then there's this one option, which is to woof at some or growl at somebody. So it's like the lazy, and it gives you like a list of things like you'd want to say. So woof, grr, I'd like to see your private media. Hello, handsome. How are you? I'd love to have a play date with you. And then there's some that are like, I'd love to drink your bath water.
Whoa. Okay.
Is that a thing?
I think it might be.
That is not a thing.
Okay, thank God.
Now, on this app that you just showed us, is there the swiping or is it set up differently?
Well, there's not swiping in this one.
Okay.
Like sending a growl is the same thing. But the way that most of these work is that, so Tinder, when you swipe, it like only shows you who you match with. So it's like you're only seeing people that you're interested in. So it reduces a little bit of the risk, right? Mm-hmm. Because then that person has already said they're also interested in you. So maybe it's not so bad. None of the others really do that.
Okay.
Yeah. What I like about this, right, is that it takes away some of the uncertainty around the social cues that you might miss. And as I was thinking about our conversation, I was reminiscing about all of the missed sexual opportunities I had because I missed cues in college. Like, I have a long list, and Stomping Jen reminded me of this once. I was telling her about these meetups I had with these women, and she's like, "Oh no, they totally wanted to sleep with you." I was like, "What?" And I'll read off a short list.
Yeah, let's see if Dan agrees.
All right, so there's this one girl in my class, a woman in my class, who's like, "Can I come over to your house and study?" right? I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. We were in like science courses. So she gets over to my house. We sit down at the table. We're studying. She goes, can I see your bedroom? I was like, yeah, sure. Let's go out. We can go look at it. So I went up there, took her up there. I was like, oh, here it is. I said, you want to go back down and finish studying? And she left. And I was like, yeah. So that was one incident.
Yeah.
Another one, this one, oh man, if I had a time machine, I went over this woman's apartment to study. We were in her bedroom. We were in her bedroom, and her roommate comes walking in wrapped in a towel with a glass of red wine. She goes, well, I'm going to be in the bathroom if you need anything. Taking a bath. I was like, okay, we're just in here studying.
Yeah.
And her friends, the girl I was there to see, just looked at me. She's like, we're just going to study, huh? I was like, yeah, we've got a test coming up. Got to study. I totally missed it.
Wow.
In hindsight, I didn't even see it.
Yeah.
I didn't even see it. Let's see. Another one. There was a similar one around a tennis date that I had. And also just to show, there was a guy in my microbiology class who invited me over to his floor to study. I went there
studying,
and I realized when I got there, I was on the LGBTQ floor. Went into his room, was studying. He was a little more direct. But
that's what I was waiting for.
I had totally missed all the cues leading up to this. Let's meet at the library and study together. I'd studied at the library with him and all this stuff. And, again, like I bring all this up because I am somebody who misses cues. And I think I don't say this jokingly, be a little on the spectrum somewhere when it comes to reading people. Because it blew my mind, Stomping Jen, when you told me that these people were propositioning me or that these were potential opportunities.
Oh, look what I ended up with here. It's lovely. I don't know how we ever hooked up.
Well, I mean, it was a lot of hard work on your part.
It was a lot of hard work. All right, but we're not here to talk about us.
Well, I'm only bringing that up. I'm only bringing these up as examples of that. The old way of dating can be frustrating for the person who might be interested in another party and the other person just isn't like picking up on it or like.
So being on an online dating app takes those, like you both know what you're here for, right? You're not here for studying.
Yeah, like by virtue of being there.
Right.
Right. And then there's the opportunities to exchange information about what you're interested in and what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I mean, I will say that it's also a little bit about the spaces that you're in, because if you go out to a gay bar or to a queer bar, people are less shy about like telling you that they're interested. Like that, like when at least in my experience, it's been like, as long as you're in that queer space and people know that it's safe, then they're like, oh, hey, I can talk to you. And flirting is pretty, much more direct.
Yeah.
As soon as it's like, there's like that safety bubble, which I think is part of what like pushed like the dating apps in the queer community faster. It's like, I mean, like I can remember going into like the chat rooms, and even that was like, it was safer than trying to talk to people outside of that. Like, because if you weren't in a gay bar and you saw somebody, you don't know what their sexual orientation is, and you don't know how they're going to respond to you flirting with them.
Right.
And, having it be like on an app or a website, it makes it a lot easier. It's, because there's like that clear identifier. Like if you're talking to somebody on Grindr, they're there for a reason.
Right.
It's not, there's not going to be like a gay bashing at the end of it.
Yeah.
What?
I'm just thinking, have you ever, sorry, I'm just thinking about this question. Do people ever represent themselves inaccurately on these online dating sites in your experience? And have you been in a situation where you were expecting something based on the information you exchange with somebody, and you show up and find out this is not what I was interested in?
Yeah. Oh yeah. All the time. Men are terrible. I mean, I had someone, I'll just say, like, I had somebody send me a picture of my own dick. It said it was theirs. And I'm like, nope, I know that one. I know that one really well. That's mine.
Oh my God.
Wait, how did they, I don't even know if I want to ask.
Yeah, ask that question. How'd they get a picture of your dick?
Oh, because it sent it to a lot of people. Like, so if we talk about like sort of how you greet people, that is one way that people greet others sometimes. That's not my personal style. I usually like to wait a little bit, but eventually, especially if you're talking about like a hookup, like they're going to be like, hey, show it off. And like, I like mine. I'm kind of happy with it. So I'm like, yeah, here it is. It's great. But you're also sending it out into the internet. I've had pictures of mine like get put onto a blog at one point, like, try and get them taken down. It's the whole thing. It happens a lot. So there's that part of it. There's also like the part where you're talking to somebody and you think you've got a good handle on them. I have like so many horror stories. Like, just the list goes on. But I had one person who like mid-coitus, they just shouted out, "Oh yeah, slam me with that N-word dick."
Oh my.
You're just like, "Oh, no, sir. You are very white and we're not saying that. That's done."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh boy, I can imagine you must be feeling so much in a moment like that.
Yeah.
Like literally, like, do you just stop and you're like, no, this is not right, leave?
Yeah, I mean, that was my approach to be like, yeah, oh, that's not okay. I think I'm done here. And now, it doesn't help that, like, I'm also a large person, so I'm not like, I wouldn't be like physically afraid in that scenario, but that does introduce an element of risk, especially if you're, on the smaller side. Like, what happens if you do try to stop things, or what happens when things go south, right? Like,
yeah, I was going to say that a situation like that could represent the potential for a lot of danger. And like you said, Juicy, you're a larger person. I think you could probably handle yourself against most people. Like, if that did turn, physically dangerous, but maybe other people, that's not the case.
Yeah. And I mean, there's all sorts of methods for like how to handle it. So some people have like the buddy system where you tell somebody, hey, this is where I'm going. This is when to check in. There's apps that you can use that also set like your location and have like a check-in, and things like that. So like, if you suddenly went missing, it would send out like a message to somebody, or if you didn't like respond, like in the affirmative, I'm okay. It's sort of, you have to really negotiate and like do your best to make sure that you're in as safe a position as possible. And I think it's weird. I don't think there's any primers, or at least I didn't find one or use one. It's sort of just figuring it out on your own. But I mean, when I was, starting out, young and stupid and like, oh yeah, it's 2:00 in the morning. Let's drive to this stranger's house in another city and see what happens.
Oh, man.
But,
and I guess part of me is like that situation you described to me, right? Is like, I don't even know if in my mind that would be acceptable with any kind of consent, right? What I'm trying to ask, I guess, is it important to talk with people ahead of time before about what your boundaries are? But
I mean, there's always negotiation that happens before, usually. Yeah. I think it almost starts depending on what app you're using and how you're meeting this person. Because some people will be very explicit about what they want and what they don't want right in their little profile that tells you what they want to do sexually or not. But you have those conversations, and then, at least for me, it's a little formulaic. And then you say, hi, how's it going? Da da da. What brings you on here? We already know the answer to that, but then they express it, and you're like, oh, cool, me too. I like that, whatever it is. But it's a form. It's a scripted exchange that gets you to what do you want to do, and then you also, at least for me now, it's like, what are your boundaries? What are things that you don't like?
Right.
Because it almost does act as like a checklist of like, I want these 5 things today. And, if you talk with somebody the next day, they're like, no, I only want 2 of them, or no, here's 7 other things. Like, it is kind of nice that it gets you like, what's your mood today is what you get. But those things are there, which again, it's easier to have that conversation when it's depersonalized, but it's still good to have. I don't think I asked that enough when I was younger.
Yeah. Again, coming from this place of total naivete, right, around this. So I have trouble even imagining, right, what it's like to meet up with somebody for a date, knowing that, the goal is just intimacy, right? Physical intimacy. Is this like an awkward thing? Is it freeing? Is it something else? And I think I heard you say this, your feelings around that may have changed over time and evolved. But I'm just like, that it's so fascinating to me because it's so outside of my wheelhouse of experience.
I mean, sometimes you're not even meeting for a date. Like, they're just going to show up and sex is going to happen. Like, there's no preamble, and there are some people who have that as a preference and they usually say it. So it's like, let's say like, I just want anonymous, whatever. Okay, cool. I mean, it's only as awkward as you want it to be, because you're there. You've talked to this person at least a little bit. You know what you're doing, but I think there's always a little bit of like, oh, hey, I'm just going to meet this person, and so there's still a little bit of negotiation. I still start out with like a hi. I'm a person, you're a person, shake hand, but it really does depend on the level of, because there's the physical intimacy, there's also the emotional and mental intimacy. And so you sort of have to navigate, like, what do you want in there? I don't know how to say
All
it.
I can think of is what happens if you hook up with somebody thinking like, oh, it's just like an anonymous hookup. And then like, you like interview for a job and they work next to you. Like what, like how does that, are those situations common or uncommon or like
I've never encountered that multiple times.
The job interview, they take out a picture of your penis.
So not on a job interview, but people who became coworkers or people who were coworkers. And then afterwards you go to meet up with someone and you hadn't necessarily seen a recent picture of them. And you're like, oh, that's okay. Right. I mean, it happens. It's a little awkward, but I think it happens enough that it's less awkward because you're just like, oh yeah, this has happened before. Even if it's not to you, it's happened to somebody else because everyone has stories. Everyone in their gaggle has like, we all talk about it at some point. So it happens. It doesn't get any, again, I think it's only as awkward as you make it. Like where you're just like, okay, yeah, I know that person. I've seen them naked and stuff. And, unless it was like a horrible time with them, I guess that might be awkward.
Okay. All right.
Do you ever either yourself or you're the subject of like wanting more of a person, like, I guess I'm saying is you have met up with somebody, it was just like a one-time thing, right? But then you're like, oh, I really like that person, or somebody is like becomes obsessed with you, and like then you have to does that ever get weird that way? Like you get stalkers or people who come after you, or
Yeah, I mean, yes, that both of those things happen. I'll say for me, it's been a while since like I accidentally caught feelings like for myself. And that's terrible when you do, because you're like, wait, no, we didn't sign up for this. This wasn't supposed to happen. And then you run away. Or at least I do, where I'm like, nope, I'm just going to throw those away. The whole thing done. This very like unemotionally intelligent way of dealing with like being attracted to somebody and wanting more.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that a lot. Like in my early 20s, that was like every few months, it was just like, wow, this is really fun. Oh, I like that. Oh, no. There are also some interactions where like, I guess the people or the person that you're with, there's like situationally, they can't give more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to, like,
they might be in a relationship, or like there might be something going on preventing them from engaging more.
Yeah, that's a nicer way of saying I fucked a lot of married men, and it, sometimes you don't know until after. But you're like, no, this is just the physical side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not judging anybody's relationship, on that end, but there are like, it does happen. It also does happen that people become like attached to you and you're not in that space, and that's always a hard thing to navigate.
Yeah,
like I'd rather not right now. And then you just have what's called ghosting, which is you just ignore every message that person sends until they stop sending messages, which is a horrible thing to do, but I think anyone who's done online dating of some form has also done that at least once.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and you're not the first queer man I have heard say before. Like, I've had a lot of married men interested in me, or I've been with married men. And like, what's interesting to me about that, right, is there seems to be, and I've thought about this, like these apps, these dating sites, and the truck stops back when people were meeting up on highway rest stops, like
Department store bathrooms.
Yeah, there's has always been a problem with making sexual desire a binary, right? You're either interested in men or you're either interested in women. There's no in between. And like a lot of people, I think, who get into relationships don't know how to have conversations with their partners about maybe where they are on that spectrum, right? And what maybe their needs are. And
Are you talking about bisexuals?
Yes.
Oh.
But also the ability to have a conversation with your partner about, like, I'm in a committed relationship with you, right? You're a woman, right? But once in a while I need to go out and be with a man or something, right? Like people, but then they have to sneak around, right? Like, and what I'm hearing, I think Juicy tell us is he's seen a lot of married men sneaking around.
I think you meant married gay men.
No. Well, the ones I guess that would be straight.
Okay.
That would say it's straight.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
That's how I took it.
All right. We both interpreted that differently. So I'm glad you asked that question.
But it's also like, it's not necessarily that it's cheating, right? They could be in an open relationship, but they're not looking to add more partners. It's just the side, it's just to go out, have fun, and then come back. So there could be, the ethically non-monogamous group, the polyamorous group, and then the unethically monogamous, which is the cheating part, which is the sneaking around. And usually those guys will identify themselves pretty early and say, like, there's all sorts of like code phrases that people will use. So sometimes they'll just say like married by, need discreet, which tells you like that person is not told whoever they're married to, like, what's happening. As soon as you see someone say like discreet, that's generally a good indicator that they're trying to cheat. And that's when you just ignore those.
Yeah.
We're going to sidestep that. But not everyone will also say that they're married, or they could lie. So you don't know until later. Which is always, again, you have to sort of take people at what they're willing to tell you.
Yeah.
But, think carefully about it too. Again, men are terrible. Yeah. That's that. But
Yeah, that's interesting to me.
What?
No, just all what Juicy just told us.
You're processing over there.
Yeah, I'm processing.
Processing.
Yeah. And I'm still caught up on this procedurally, like having sex with somebody you just met. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
I don't think it's for everybody.
I'm remembering, no, Juicy told us, like, yeah, you shake hands, have a little chit chat, and then get down to, like, to me, again, like, you're
not built that way.
I'm not built that way.
He can't put himself in that mindset because he does not operate under those parameters.
Is that something that you get, I guess, used to with exposure and experience, and you realize, because what I'm trying to situate this in is a larger message that society gives us, right, about non-committed relationship sex, right? That we should feel shame about it, that we're sluts, whether we're men or women, if we're just having sex for pleasure, right? Like, and like, I grew up in this incredibly sex negative environment that I think impacted my ability to be able to be more free, right? Mm-hmm. Like, with myself in situations. So I'm just like, again, like, it's amazing to me that people can do that.
I think part of it is like the place that you start.
Yeah.
But I mean, even from a framing standpoint, if I grew up in like a really religious home, and, sex was only for procreation, well, I primarily sleep with men. None of that is going to result in a baby. Sex is always for pleasure. So like from that point, there's that. There's also, I think, and I don't know if this is individual, generational. I don't know if it's based on sexuality, but there's definitely a difference or a disconnect, I think, between physical intimacy and emotional intimacy. And it's probably because it's a lot of guys who are all emotionally stunted, who are engaging in this, that it's a lot of emphasis on that physical intimacy and not so much on the emotional until later. It's like, I don't know how to, I'll say I've never dated somebody that I haven't had sex with before dating. Mm-hmm. For the most part, it's usually sex that leads to dating rather than the other way around. But there's also a distinct difference between like hookup sex, which is just sort of, I don't know, scratching an itch. Grindr all of those geosocial apps make that really easy to do because you can see who's nearby. You go, less than 5 miles away. Great. And you have that versus the dating, which is like becoming like trusting someone and getting emotionally comfortable and revealing yourself and fearing rejection and all those things that normally happen.
Right.
Like in those relationships, it happens later, which is, I don't know, nice, but also terrifying. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the longest you ever traveled to hook up with somebody? Farthest?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious. Did it involve a plane flight?
No, but it was Utica. So
Utica.
Yeah. Well, so like I met this guy. He started messaging me. We were at the same party. And it's still easier than talking to somebody. You just open up the app and send them a message and see if they're interested. But he was from Utica. So 2 weeks later, I drove out to meet him. So I guess there's that.
Sex is an incredibly powerful force. It'll make you drive. Like after stomping Jen, introduced me into the world of physical pleasures.
Lovely.
I drove 6.5 hours to go visit you over a winter break through a snowstorm.
No, you left before the
I left
snowstorm.
during the snowstorm. Oh, I guess it's not that powerful then. I was afraid of the snowstorm. No, but my point is, like, I was like, okay, I've got to drive.
Just because you wanted to see me?
It was, but
it was pre-internet, remember, folks? It wasn't like FaceTime.
It was pre-internet. It was also because I wanted to see you. I was fascinated with you. Right?
Oh, fascinated.
Yeah, you're the first person to ever fascinate me.
Oh, goodness.
But I also was being driven by this new world I had discovered with you of physical pleasures. And I was like,
sorry, Mom and Dad.
I was like 6.5 hours, no problem. So we got into my little Dodge Colt and drove all the way down there to see you. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you were just going for just physical intimacy, I don't know if everyone else has this. I think they do. I've talked to at least my gaggle of gays, and everyone's got something similar, which is like the formula of like how long you're willing to drive versus like how good and how long the sex will be. And it's sort of like
there's like a ratio. There's like a equation that you fill out in your head.
I like that, like, because you don't want to like drive somewhere for like if you want to drive like an hour for like a 20-minute hookup and then you drive back, that's like 2 hours of your time wasted for like 20 minutes of whatever. That's not worth it.
Right.
So you like flip that so that it's basically you need like doing the math out. Like it's like
it's
double
a cost benefit.
Yeah. So
analysis. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, like the ratio's got to be like, I would say probably like at least 1-to-1, if not 1-to-2 in terms of traveling distance, like
right,
or traveling time versus like sexy time.
But going back to something you said, like we shouldn't feel shamed for wanting to scratch that itch, right? If we're doing it safely, if we are doing it consensually, legally, all of those things. Like, why do so many people feel shame about this? This is the thing I grapple with.
I don't know.
It comes down to the slut shaming thing. Like,
we're still all Puritans, right? Like, I mean, if you look at our attitudes compared to other countries, even other Western countries, like we got the Puritans. That's where we started, and we still have those attitudes towards sex, where it's like, "Ooh, that's bad, that's dirty." Like movie ratings is the same thing. Like movies, oh God, there was like some nudity that must be rated R. But like, did somebody just get exploded and then like
it's true?
A dinosaur eats like their remains? Like,
that's
PG.
That's so true.
Yeah,
because we have this discussion all the time. Because what we allow our kids to watch, really, at this point, the only thing we censor is like what we term as inappropriate, which is basically sex.
Yeah.
But they can watch these things where people, like you just said, the violent as anything.
Can I just say something about that? Like, one of the reasons is like, I feel like, and I'm not saying exposure to violence in a young age doesn't fuck you up, right? But like, I was exposed to porn at a pretty young age, right? And like, I think it fucked up a lot of my conceptions about what like healthy, normal, I don't even want to use the word normal, but what healthy sex looks like. Yeah.
So sorry not to have therapy here on the Soft Serve podcast, but I think it also had to do with the way that you were discussed and dialogued around sex.
Absolutely, 100%.
So if you have that healthy dialogue with your kids and then you're watching something and there's kissing or whatever, sex happening on the screen, I think it's a lot easier to dialogue around that.
Good point.
Yeah. As a complete aside.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like there's, you want to talk about sociology too. So there's a book by Amy Shallett that talks about like Not in My House and talks about the sort of different families and their approaches based on the country that they're in to like talking about sex and when sex can happen and how it happens. And the Dutch families like talking about like, yeah, sex is, sex, and they conflate, physical and emotional intimacy, and they talk about it and they say it's normal and it's okay. And it's better to have that relationship, safely within a home. So like, that's fine. Have sex indoors. versus the American context where it's like, yeah, of course you have to lose your virginity in a car or out in a field somewhere or,
Yeah.
like, because God forbid you do that at home where it's dirty. And if you don't have that conversation, you don't know, it's always awkward and weird. And, it gets to that, like, as long as you can talk about it, then I think it's fine where you can say, oh, that's not normal. If you're watching a particular scene and there's something wrong with that, and you can even break it down and say, like, why, what was missing? Was it consent? Was it, equal or mutual satisfaction? Was there those sort of things? You can break that up and make it easier.
Yeah. Learning opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, part of me, like, I think about this, like, everybody who has their beliefs, right, thinks they're right. Like, start there, right? And then you try to shoot the through line and try to find what the truth is through all of this. And like, for me, the word that keeps coming up, right? A couple of words that keep coming up, I think, are consent, right? And legal, right? I think that's a good framework for as we've defined it, at least as society, right? Like, you probably shouldn't. You should make sure you're having relationships with people who can legally make those decisions, right? About what they do with their own bodies, right?
Okay.
I think. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're saying.
I'm saying I can't make sense of any of this, and sex confuses and scares me.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
That's true. That's
Juicy
true for
D.
you. I'm so glad we're having this conversation.
How do I make sense of this, Juicy D? I'm spinning over here out of control.
I do not know. I barely know how to make sense of sex myself, and I consider myself pretty open to a lot of things. But I think if you're trying to frame sex as like, how do you process it? Then yeah, I would say start with legal and also consensual. But honestly, I would say, even what sex is different for different people. There are some people that really like frauding and or like
frauding.
Yeah.
What is that?
What is that?
It's when you rub yourself on people, but usually while you're still clothed.
Oh. That could be interesting. Get over here, Stomping Jen.
Oh my God. Stop. Poor Juicy D.
Well, it's not even the weirdest thing I've seen today. You're fine.
Go ahead.
But I mean, like,
right.
There are people that are into, I guess you call them kinky relationships, and there are a ton of things that aren't even really sexual that they find sexual gratification in, right? So like service submissives that do things like cleaning a house, and like, there's nothing necessarily innately sexual about doing it, but the process is sexual to them, and that's where you derive pleasure. And so, like, even saying things that, like, it, I guess just to say sexual gratification doesn't need sex, so it gets even more complicated. The fewer boundaries or checkboxes you have, the better, maybe.
Yeah. So interesting.
It's a great topic for you, Sawtooth.
I know.
He's just like...
I'm like an alien visiting a planet.
This is so beyond him.
An alien visiting a planet full of sex. That's what I'm like.
Yeah, and sex that's weird. That's the part.
But I'm even trying to stay away from words like weird.
Oh, no, I'll do it.
You will.
I will 100% say this. All right, so I'm going to say maybe the third or fourth message I ever got on Grindr way back in the day was just the line, "Can I pay you $50 to fart on me?"
Oh my gosh.
The answer is yes, right?
Well, at that time I said no, and now I'm like, wow, that was dumb. That was $50. You should have done it.
Prostitute your gastrointestinal processes.
Yeah, I mean that is certainly something that's, I guess you could think of as weird. Right, Stomping Jen?
I fart on you all the time. Where's my payment?
Do I have to pay you $50 now every time that happens? I'm going to be broke.
I mean, like, and I would say it's not even necessarily the act that was weird, just like not even a hello, not a hi, not anything else, nothing to like warm up to that. It was just, that was the mess. And you're like, okay, I appreciate the directness, but also no. And sort of, I don't know how to say it. I always internalize it. I was like, what made him think that I wanted to be paid money to fart on him? What did I put in my profile? What was in the background? But there's always these like conversations because there's like a whole language that you have to learn.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, you mentioned there was like not even a high, like, is there an economy of communication that's important? Like, you know, are you somebody who values a, hey, how you doing? Like, is that important to you as somebody who is potentially going to meet up with somebody and be intimate, or maybe more like...
Yeah, I don't know why I feel like this, but I 100% do, where it's like, I just want someone to say like a hello or a hi before anything else. Just like a recognition that I am a person.
Right.
And then proceed with all of the other, like, you know.
I get pissed when the cash register attendant at Starbucks doesn't say hello to me. Like, I at least would expect it from an intimate situation.
Oh, I guess we're a little opposite. I want it from like the before intimacy. I don't care if the Starbucks person says whatever. They're just being paid and they're probably not happy to be there. This person should be happy. I should be happy. We should all be happy.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to be like, hey, just a hi, just a hello. Mm-hmm. Instead, a lot of times guys will start off with like, here's a picture of my genitals. Here's my butt. Here's my penis. Here's a dozen pictures of my penis from different angles so you can see the highlights of it. I don't know why, but it happened.
Is there like an art to the penis selfie?
Yeah. Well, there's not, I guess there is an art to it, but there's like some basic rules of like, rarely does anyone want to see a flaccid penis. I don't know why that crops up every once in a while.
Yeah.
It's just gross.
Use lighting, like make sure that it's like visible. They're also weird, like when people want to talk about size, and like sometimes you'll see like someone will take a picture next to like a remote control or something and be like, "Take the size." We have numbers. We have measurements for this. You could just say it. Because now it's like, why did you like? Did you wash that off after? Did you wipe it down?
Goodness.
Imagine when you bring that remote back to Cox Cable.
Oh my god!
And you can be like,
"You're being silly."
I have imbibed this remote with its namesake.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
About. Sorry, I forgot it, and then I just remembered it. About the language, like you were just referred to, because like you're using a lot of terms that we've never heard of, right? And how does one learn that language? Is that just from being in the community? Like, do you need, like, does it come with a handbook? Do you like open up the app? It has like a definition and a glossary of terms. Like, how does...
It would be wonderful if there was a good handbook. It would have saved me a lot of trouble learning water sports doesn't mean swimming.
Yeah.
That meant once. And so those sort of things where it's just like, oh, that's not, you learn it sort of by being present in it. But also we're talking about online, and there's a lot of like Googling early on. It was Urban Dictionary, looking up certain things and being like, oh, that's what that is. Okay. But then there are also like codes. You really see like people have like, ooh, do you like to party? And then you have to understand what that means, which means
that's a drug reference, right?
Yeah. It's usually meant.
Oh, right. Jeez.
And that's when you see like party has a capital T in it, and that tells you like, oh, that's what you're looking for. Okay. Or they'll say like, oh, I like to go skiing, which also means drugs. That one's just cocaine.
Oh, okay.
I got that one.
I didn't get that.
I got that one.
Because there's a lot like, P&P, which is party and play. But then there's like FF, which I didn't really get before. They like F, and then like I want like F fucking, but just two F's together, and it's fist fucking. But I didn't know that for a while. It took a while to be like, oh, that's what you mean. Okay.
I learned one term.
What?
Docking.
Docking?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nope.
Do you know what that is?
No.
It's when take two penises and you put them tip to tip
He's demonstrating with his
with my
fingers.
fingers. Yeah, that's docking.
Yeah.
Well, there's another step to that that you're missing.
Please go on.
One person needs to be uncircumcised so that you can put the head of the penis into.
Oh, that makes way more sense.
Oh,
which is where you're docking.
Way more sense.
I think what I described might be bumping, or better term. Maybe there's a different
sword
fighting.
Okay. I learned something.
That is interesting.
The more you know.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I mean, you gave us an absolutely horrific example of a meetup that went bad. I don't know. I don't know if you could top that one. But I was curious if any in your mind stand out alongside that example you gave us, or exceed that example you gave us. Because,
oh God. I mean, sex is always weird. So it doesn't matter. There's always those potentials for awkwardness. It was, well, I think one time I was with somebody, and this was when we were both younger, and he was supposed to have the house to himself, and his mother came in while we were on the couch mid-credits. So that was a fun one. That was him coming out, and
oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Mom, I have something to tell you.
Oh no.
And my friend Juicy D here will tell you for me.
Did you just show yourself out the window? See ya.
It wasn't even there wasn't even time to react. It was literally, she was in the room there, and she shrieked, and we were both like, what? What's happening? Okay, this is awkward. Let's get dressed. I'm going to leave now.
Yeah.
Did she say anything to you as you left?
No. She was just she was saying, she was talking to herself in the kitchen. Just having this little break.
Oh my God.
And it was just one of those, are you okay to stay here? She's near the sharp pointy things.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Are you okay? And he's like, yeah. So it's okay, good luck.
All right. See ya.
That was good of you to ask that.
Did you follow up after?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it's it was it wasn't the first time that we'd been together.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it was just that was just the surprise.
Yeah.
So oh, is that okay? Are you okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now.
Do you ever? One question I had, and you kind of answered this actually, I was thinking about the information security angle of online dating, and you told us, I think when you shared with us, somebody had shared a picture of your own dick with you, so clearly there's a security issue there, or an information control issue, and I was thinking to myself, I know if I ever used one of these websites or apps, if I ever decided to run for office or do something public, I'm sure people would come out of the woodwork with screenshots and all sorts of things like that. So it is something. Do you worry about it? I mean, or do you deal with the situations as they pop up?
I mean, I would say I worried about it before, and that sort of just kind of fell away with the realization that, at least at that time, that's the option that you have, and people are still going to ask for pictures. It's going to happen because especially if it's just for physical intimacy, you want to see, you want to see what you're signing up for. So here it is. I think now I guess I just think of it as being something so common that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. Are we moving to a place where there's more normalization around, people and what they want sexually and how they get it. And, it's not as much of a scandal anymore as long as you're engaging in legal, consensual sex with people. Like, it feels less scandalous to me, I guess, as an outside observer.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's less scandalous depending on who you are, right? So, like, straight white guys usually get away with whatever. It's like, well, sex with whoever, what a shame, but like, is it that bad?
Right.
Versus, other like queer people who, I'm thinking about like Alex Morse's, like that whole situation, where it was consensual sex, but still got run through and it was something dirty, and people were making all sorts of comments about like hookup culture and queerness, and it was much.
Yeah, that is a really interesting example. I think when that story broke, for people who are listening to this who don't live in Massachusetts, who may not know this, we had a mayor, an openly gay mayor of one of our cities out here, a really big Western Massachusetts city, and he was effectively, if I'm remembering correctly, he was running for Congress.
Something.
Yep, and he was single, and he
and young,
and happened to date people around his age, a little bit younger, and some of those were college students. And anyways, there was this, and he was also teaching, I think, at one of the universities, but he was very careful to draw very hard lines between not dating his own students and all of that stuff. He did everything he was supposed to do as a professional, right? And still have a personal sex life. Anyways, there was this whole scandal erupted over this. And I was quick to condemn him, being like, oh, look, another politician, and their dick got them in trouble, right? And then Juicy very nicely pointed out to me, he's like, well, hold on, this smells funny. And for a lot of the reasons you just were talking about, like, he might be being set up here and we need to wait and see what happens. And it turns out he was totally vindicated, right? But I think it talks to a lot of the negative perceptions that are pushed about single gay men, right? Being overly promiscuous, I guess, and also, I learned something about slowing down and thinking about my own buying into narratives that are pushed upon me, and I may not even be aware of them. And I don't know.
Your biases.
My biases, yeah.
But I think it was just even the conversations that were happening, and they're still happening around it, where it's just this idea that politicians must be chaste. You have to be either celibate or married. But especially when it comes to, like, if somebody wants to have a hookup and everyone is consenting and there's not coercion happening, it's great. And it's fine, and it should be celebrated. I don't want to celebrate, but like, it should be fine and everyone should be fine with it. And it's weird. I don't know. It's weird that there's always that hang up of like, oh, what if, and that was the thing. There was all sorts of like, what if, like, this is what Alex does as a mayor. What happens when he's in Congress? And like those sort of conversations, like nothing would change.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, there's always like the sort of like, talking about who gets to be sexually free, like for men, the conquest, they've done their job. They've gone out hunting and returned. There's all that like sort of weird machismo that still happens in queer spaces too, which is weird. Where it's like, I thought we were better than that, but we're not. And where women still get the short end, and even happens for gay men. It's like the person who's the receptive, like the bottom, gets like the short end of the stick, and like, well, they're a slut, they've let everybody fuck them, and it's like, well, doesn't that make everyone who fucked them also a slut? Like, what?
Right.
That's but there's still bottom shaming all over the place, and that ties in with misogyny pretty well, which is upsetting. And it happens.
Are people just terrible?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a problem I have.
Why?
I want people to be better, I think.
Well, all we can do is be responsible for ourselves.
It's too much. I'm too much. I can't be responsible for myself. I need to worry about other people. That's easier.
You can't worry about what other people are doing. You can only worry about yourself.
That's interesting. I don't think I like that.
That's bad sex.
So safety, that's important too. Like physical safety when we're dating online, right? And we're using these apps. And I was looking at I was looking at some websites earlier today that talk about steps you can take to be safer. I'm going to read some of these, Juicy. I want to know if they align with what your experience is in kind of staying safe out there. And hopefully, if there's anybody out there listening to this who's considering dating online using these apps, you'll listen carefully to this. All right, you talked about this, getting the pictures, right? And maybe getting multiple pictures so you can confirm if there's any funny business going on, right? Like you mentioned, you got a picture of your own penis, and you're like, now hold on a minute here. Something is not right.
Something is amiss.
Something is up.
Trying to make a terrible joke here.
Okay.
All right, let's move on.
All right. Now this says ask for a phone number as a way of validating identity. Do we like this one or not?
Not really. I don't think that's necessary. I mean, like, I guess it depends on what you're doing. Typically, that's like if you're gonna date someone, like you're going with that long-term intimacy, than you would. But if it's just a hookup, no, and it's sort of silly because you can just spoof a number, like grab like a Google Voice number, and there's your fake number. So it's sort of weird to say like, oh yeah, get a phone number to prove who they are.
That's interesting. I wouldn't know how to spoof a number. Stomping Jen, Juicy D. All right, this one says FaceTime or video chat with the person ahead of time, just to no.
That doesn't usually. That's not a thing.
It sounds like this was written by somebody who has never done this before.
Wait, what's this one?
To share your location with a friend.
You talked about that.
Yeah.
Yep. Tell a friend you're going on a date.
Yeah, and I think these are also, there's different audiences. Like I can't speak for like the straight woman or like the queer woman experience. So some of those might be more, they want to be more cautious too. So maybe that's a thing.
Yeah. Now this, just for context, this article was was published in Men's Health. It says 8 ways to make your Grindr hookups safer. I think.
All right. Well then.
You don't like this article?
Well, let's just go through it. Let's finish.
Right,
we'll just go through the list.
You're number 5.
So far, we're 2 for 2.
All right.
I mean, 2 for 4.
All right. What's
we're
number
batting
5?
50% with real world experience, which is not bad. Use an app that has mandatory photo verification. I don't even know what that means.
So typically what they would do is, well, there's a couple different ways. One is like Tinder connects with Facebook, right? So you can pull photos from that. But you can also verify yourself on Tinder. I don't think you can verify yourself on Grindr. So that's weird advice.
Okay. All right.
It's Chappy.
It says
it's talking about something called Chappy.
Yeah, it says maybe you do that through some kind of third-party app. That sounds like too much work.
Yeah, that's way more than
no. Right. And I think chappy would be for English dudes.
Chappy.
Right?
Or like motorcycle chaps.
Now, this one seems to make sense. And I think Juicy D confirmed this. Talk about what you want to do before the meeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's important.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Leave his apartment or get him out of your apartment if you're not into what's happening. You told us about that.
Yep, you did tell us about that.
Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
Yep.
Yep.
Consent is not a one-time thing. It's a continual negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's a good point. And go with your gut. If something doesn't seem right, trust yourself. Now, have you had any experiences where you were like, where you felt like something was off and you just pulled the plug?
Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't even have to be like, I mean, there were some times where you'd see like tattoos that like, I know that imagery. I'm not feeling good about this. Or like just the way that they talked, or if they start referencing things that you chatted about, but they're giving very different answers in the moment.
Yeah.
Anytime it feels off, you say no. And maybe you want to chat with them more, or like you have all those different ways to like, do you want to talk to them more and see if there's something going on, or do you want to just get yourself out?
Right.
You can always fake a phone call if you have to.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. And I'm going to post the links to these articles that have these safety tips.
Oh, you have another article.
Yeah, this one's from Tinder, and it has a lot of the same stuff in it. This is an interesting one. Be in control of your transportation.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're at home, obviously you're okay. You're presumably in a safe space, but maybe don't take an Uber out to out to the hills,
out to Utica,
and get stranded and have no way to escape a situation.
There's also a lot about like this typically happens, especially with people that are younger, where you might not have your own car. And so it's like, so there's people they'll pick you up and bring you back to their place and then bring you home.
Yeah.
And you are throwing everything, like all of your power away in that.
Yeah.
Again, I was stupid and young and did that more than once. But it is nerve-wracking. And you think to yourself, like, wow, this could have been bad. It wasn't bad, but it could have been bad.
Yeah.
And so it is important to think of like, how do you have it? Like, what's your
backup plan?
What's your getaway plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. This one's important, I think. And I just want to mention it. And we're not substance shaming anybody, but know your limits. So if you're having an encounter with somebody you don't know, maybe don't drink too much, don't do too much meth, or don't ski too much. Like whatever it is that you're into.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just be careful. Yeah. Just be careful there.
Be smart out there.
Yep. Don't leave drinks or personal items unattended. That's for getting
roofied.
Do you know anybody, or have you experienced some kind of like attempted poisoning?
Drugging.
Yeah.
I will do my best, Vladimir Putin. Poisoning is what we do. How was that?
Terrible.
How dare you? Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Juicy D.
Unbelievable.
Thank you.
But yeah, going to like especially larger events. So like I go to Bear Week frequently, almost every year. And talking to people, and like every year there's multiple reports of being roofied, and that's just what gets reported. Like it happens.
So this is still a very real danger.
Yeah, it's still a danger. You still want to be in control. If you and this, I think I would say this for anyone going out to any bar, anywhere. If you put your drink down and walk away, get another drink. That one is dead. You only put your drink down when you're done with it.
Okay.
You're not in that space and you can't see it.
Don't let that drink out of your hand.
Yeah. Because you don't know.
Yeah. And people are bad.
Yeah.
And people are bad.
I mean, I was at one party and someone came up and kissed me, and like I had that moment of like, that was weird. What was that? Why? Oh, that's that they had cocaine in their mouth.
Oh my
And
God.
now I do.
Oh my God.
Going on a little ski trip.
Yeah. So, unexpected, unintentional things, or there are things that are beyond not unintentional, but things that you weren't planning on. So
Yeah.
just being aware of it, being in control. If you're going out, in general, having a buddy system where you at least have someone to check in with is useful.
Yeah. I mean, I hate, this is on the Tinder site, and I hate what this says about our world that I have to mention this, but Juicy, maybe you can shed some more light on this. It says LGBTQ plus travel. So if you are an LGBTQ plus person and you're traveling to an area that, not all parts, unfortunately, of the country and the world are friendly to the queer community. Is that something you've had to think and worry about when you're going places or meeting up with somebody? Like, is that, yeah.
I mean, I think of it, because I also think of it in terms of race and like, where am I going to be safe and welcome versus not? So
Right.
there's always those two things. And then how visibly queer am I presenting, which, have idea of like bright blue, are the clothes, like I have a tank top now, with a cat with a pride flag. So like, what do I want to wear? What makes you visible or not?
Right.
Depending on the country, if you're thinking international travel, you also have to think about what's legal or not in that country.
Yeah, that's what this long paragraph talks about, especially underscores, is like if you're going to fucking Saudi Arabia or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot of like thinking about how you present and where you're going and what space you'll be in. Like you always have to think about that.
Yeah. Now, this stuff doesn't come as a surprise to me. It's about, we've talked about this, consent and sexual health. Protect yourself, right? That could mean a lot of different things. Condoms, disclose and know and disclose your status. And anything you can offer to us on that, Juicy?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that everyone, regardless of what you do, how often you do it, get tested regularly.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's even if you think that you're in a monogamous relationship, it doesn't hurt. And it also helps to remove the stigma around getting tested for STIs, which is great.
Yeah.
And then, the scary part is that most HIV transmission happens with someone who doesn't even know that they're positive. And so you really get tested. Even if you don't think that you are, get tested. It's not a death sentence. And there's so many things that you can do to negotiate and mitigate risk and still have sexual partners and a healthy sex life. Mm-hmm. So being on Truvada or other medications, it can get you to and this is a term that you see a lot, which is HIV positive undetectable.
Yep.
Meaning they can't detect the viral load in your body, which is great because that also means that you're very unlikely to transmit that to somebody as well. And then there's pre-exposure PrEP so that you can help prevent getting HIV. There's even if you think you've been exposed, you can go to the hospital and it's basically a mega dose of PrEP, but they can give you medication within 72 hours so that you don't, or you're unlikely to have that virus.
And the PrEP medication is a newer prophylactic in a sense for HIV. It doesn't keep you, the idea is if you are living a lifestyle and engaging in activities that could lead to an increased risk of HIV infection, you could take this medicine, right? And it will help kill the virus before it could establish should you become exposed to it, through a condom break or something else happens. So this stuff is good medicine that can help protect you. And also there's other nasty things circulating out there, drug resistant gonorrhea and, other things, and that can't be treated.
Yeah. And it's a horror show. So, you want to talk to your partner about it, know your own sexual health, and then again, get tested regularly. It's like a little uncomfortable, and maybe they take a little blood and you pee in a cup and you're done. Boom, done. It's so worth it.
Although somebody did tell me once for like a gonorrhea test or something, they stick a long stick down the head of your penis.
Your urethra.
Your urethra. Thank you. Yeah. That doesn't sound fun.
No.
It's a little uncomfortable. Let's be right. It's really uncomfortable, but it's worth doing.
Yes. And finally, consent. We've talked about this multiple times this evening. I mean, very important. Okay. All right. Juicy. Just a couple more questions. I got to be honest. I didn't get through even like all of my questions for you. Are we losing something by dating digitally? Do you think? Are like something elemental to the human experience of like being able to just walk into a room and be like, hey, sugar, let's get something going here. Like, are we losing something by having too much access to people? Is it too easy to meet people?
I mean, I think it depends on sort of what. I think it's individual depending on like how you can handle and process those things. If you're okay with it, then and it's not hurting you, then I think it's fine. But there are some people that are, I think, fundamentally harmed by having too much access or having it be too easy, or they lose that sort of personal connection. But it depends. If you're looking for just physical intimacy, then I think it's fine as long as you can differentiate and handle that, and it's not hurting you to only have physical intimacy and not the emotional, or vice versa.
Yeah, I think that's important because I mean, somebody who, if we accept something like sex addiction is real, right? If we think that's a real disorder, something like this could, I mean, online dating and apps and all of that could maybe make that a little too easy for somebody who has a untreated problem in that area. I think that's what I'm hearing. Yeah, I'm mostly just worried about like how are we going to meet people and have sex in the apocalypse once none of this technology works.
I mean, lighting our hair on fire.
Yep, that's right. That's right. We'll
go back
always
to
have fire.
those time-tested methods of attracting a mate.
That's right.
Yes.
I mean, I think we still have those, like, because I can still go out to a bar with friends and still have those sort of flirty interaction. It still happens.
Do you need that? Like, do you do that? I mean, obviously not right now because of COVID, but is that something you feel you're missing and want to do again?
I mean, I would say, yeah. I mean, God, gay men are so weird. I don't know how to say, like, I miss the low stakes flirting where you're just like flirting with somebody, but you know it's going nowhere. You're just doing it for funsies. I miss that.
Why did you just look at me like that? This is like a foreign concept. That's what's going on in his head. He's like, who the fuck would want to go to a bar and flirt?
I wouldn't know if I was being flirted with, and I wouldn't know how to flirt. I just stare at people when they say things to me. I don't know how to respond.
I mean, again, there's a directness difference.
Yeah.
I think maybe, like, I'll give an example, and this is in person, right? So being outside at a party and I didn't have a shirt on and somebody walked up, licked my nipple and said, Hershey Kisses.
Here's your what?
They licked my nipple and said, Hershey Kisses.
Oh my goodness.
So
that almost happened to you, Sawtooth.
When? Tell the
Somebody
story.
tweaked your nipple.
Oh, well, that was, I don't think that was sexual in any way.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
No, there was no remarking about.
No. Nobody said Hershey Kisses to me.
Well, I mean, you know, mine do kind of look like Hershey Kisses. Maybe yours would be Skittles. I don't know. You know,
I have weird nipples, actually.
You do?
I think they're weird.
What?
They're kind of puffy.
What? I'm gonna stop you right there.
Why?
Enough. Oh my God.
I don't think there's enough.
Why are you shaming your body?
I don't think there's enough talk about nipple differences in men.
God.
Like, when I grew up, I always saw on TV, like, these men with these perfectly flat, orange melanized nipples.
What?
And my nipples don't look like that.
What are you talking about?
They're a little cone-shaped and puffy. No matter how much I'm lifting, like they have just a little bit of puffiness to them. That's all.
Everybody's body is different.
But I didn't know this, and I felt bad as a teenager.
So bad for you.
Nobody sat me down and said, Sawtooth, your nipples are okay.
This is where you make that public statement now so that you can help the kids in the future.
Can I confess something?
Oh
Do you know how bad it was for me? I taped Band-Aids across my nipples when I was a kid because I felt they were too puffy. I like my nipples now. I do. But I taped them down because I thought they stuck out too much.
Oh my God. You needed a sports bra? Like, what's going on?
No, it's not my pectorals. It's just like they're a little cone shaped.
I mean, that's how mine are. It doesn't matter what I do. We're always poking out.
So maybe I do have.
Welcome to like a woman's world where like you have to cover that shit up all the time.
I'm just saying, nobody took time with me.
I'll take time with you.
Thank you.
I'll make sure that your puffy nipples are covered at all times.
Why do we have to cover them? I'm taking off my shirt right now.
Oh my God.
That's a threat I can't make good on, Juicy. I'm sorry.
God.
All right.
Where are you taking us? You've lost control of the bus. It's going off the rails. I don't know what's happening anymore.
All right, Juicy. Can real committed relationships come from meetup apps like Tinder and Grindr? Talk to us just a little bit about that.
I mean, how you meet and what you intend to do with that relationship is going to be the same regardless of if you met on Grindr or if you met now. I mean, my current partner, when we met, it's through Grindr. It's been almost 5 years now. I think it might be 4. I don't know. I don't know how to tell time, especially this last year.
That's all right. Yeah. Everybody lost a year. It's totally fine.
But, in terms of like dating somebody, if you want, and this is the thing, is that most of the apps allow you to specify what you're looking for or not. And people will do it, formally or not. They'll, say like right in their bio, like I'm looking for dating and not hookups. Okay, cool. That person knows that when you're interacting, they want dating. They want to build those relationships up. And that's sort of what happens here, with my partner and I. It's like you can have committed relationships and you can also make friendships, which I think gets lost in that online dating. There's plenty of times where, and I think this happens in real life, people are like, oh, maybe I'm interested in them. Maybe not. And then they become friends. And that happens. I mean, on the apps, you make friends. You're like, wow, I'm not really interested in meeting you for sex, but like, you seem like a cool person. Let's talk. So I think you get all of that. It just depends on how you want to use it. If you only use it, at 2:00 in the morning when you're sex right before bed, well, you're going to get some different. I don't think you're going to find like pure romance at that point.
Okay, so people can use these apps for making friends, for looking for longer term relationships, and also listen. There's nothing wrong with it. We talked about this. We're not going to shame the need to scratch the itch. Right, that means sex, Stomping Jen.
Oh, thank you
for
clarifying.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Just so you know. I didn't actually...
I need to whip out my glossary.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else. I thought we were going to get to see your nipples.
Alrighty.
What shape are they? Cone shape?
Oh my God.
All right. Juicy D. We have 2 more questions for you. These are fun questions, not related to sex, or dating. We're going to have you back because I started out before we started recording, I was like, we're trying to keep this to an hour and 15 minutes. We're at an hour and 40, and I feel like I could talk to you for another 2 hours. I feel like we're just getting started here. So,
because you started talking about your nipples.
I could talk about my nipples forever, Stomping Jen. Now listen, this is not the Sawtooth Nipple podcast.
We're not. Here. No, thank God.
But what I was going to say is, Juicy, I think it's important. These conversations are important. And I think there's more we could go into and talk about. So we're going to have you back.
Okay.
I think.
I mean, if he wants to.
If he wants to. This could have been a total train wreck from his perspective.
Like, I don't know if I want to come back.
This is fine. I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. All right. But our two fun questions now. Now this is a softball. What do you like to do for fun when you're not working, or how do you relax? How do you kick back? What do you like to do?
Oh, playing video games, tons and tons, thousands of hours of video games, reading, but not like good reading. Like I do read like real books, but I also like super trashy sci-fi, like that's really bad. So like, Warhammer,
No.
like, I don't even play the Warhammer game. I just read the shitty novels about it.
Oh, nice. A novel adaptation of a video game.
That's awesome.
It's not even a video game. It's a tabletop miniature game.
Oh, nice.
It's the universe that little thing happens in. And I read that it's just beautiful. But also anything with friends, that's the biggest thing. Like how do you relax? It's just hang out with friends and then do something weird. Or paint my nails, although these a professional did, so I'm trying not to break them or.
Yeah, no, they look nice. I used to get my nails done. Remember, Stomping Jen?
You got your nails done like choice.
No. In college, I used to paint them.
Oh, you mean you used to put nail polish on your hands?
Well, this girl did.
Oh, this girl did.
Yes.
She invite you to study?
But I liked it. No, she was with somebody else.
Oh, she was with somebody else.
But the answer, no. But I did wear nail polish at a time for a time. Mm-hmm. Okay. Our next question, and our last question, Juicy. Well, Stomping Jen, I missed this part. You usually remind me. Sorry, before we go to our last question, Juicy.
Oh my goodness.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about? I'm being incredibly self-centered. I was focused on my nipples, and I just lost it. Juicy, was there anything you wanted to talk about, or anything that you felt like we needed to just cover before we ended the larger conversation?
No, I think we hit on most of the things that I would have talked about anyway, which is just like sex is awkward. Sex with strangers can be awkward, but so can sex with anyone can be awkward in the moment. And like destigmatizing like hookup culture as though it's something terrible or something that didn't happen before.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine.
Wash away the shame, right, Stomping Jen?
Yeah.
No shame.
Mm-hmm.
Get all that shame off of us.
Mm-hmm.
This
Make
is
sure to dialogue with your children.
Yeah, this is a theme that's begun emerging over the last couple months. Is this how damaging shame is?
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll do a shame cast one day. I'm going to come up with a list of all of the things I feel shame about.
Oh my God. We're
Isn't
not going to
that
have
gonna
a
be
guest
fun?
on, are we? It's a private conversation.
No, everyone needs to hear this.
No,
conversation.
I don't mean you can broadcast it, but I'm saying you don't want to sit and torture somebody.
Oh, how dare you
to have
torture somebody?
To have to comment on what you're... Okay. Love you.
I'm vapor locked over here. Okay.
All right.
Juicy D, our last question. Thank you. Now, if you're a listener of this podcast, you'll know what's coming. I see this look. He's never listened to a single episode. He's in trouble, Stomping Jen. That's okay. We still love Juicy D. Now, what have you experienced, Juicy D, that you cannot explain?
Wow.
Let's see what he says.
God, the list is pretty long. That's just, I don't know a lot of shit. Even to, I know that I don't think my apartment is haunted because I don't think that's a thing. That's just me. But stuff falls over a lot, and it's not my cat knocking it over. Even today, there's bread on a shelf that seems level, and it just flew into the middle of the kitchen. It fell and bounced. So my partner says it's haunted, that there's angry ghosts. I don't know. If all they're doing is flipping bread, then I'm not that concerned. But
yeah,
stuff happens.
It's a pretty nice ghosts.
Yeah. He's just, the ghost is just saying, hey, here's some bread. Make a sandwich. You must be hungry. All
right. Thanks for sharing. That's a good story. That's perfectly acceptable.
Oh, it's perfectly acceptable.
No, it was good. I'm just, I'm fishing for.
He's looking for.
I'm on the hunt for evidence of the paranormal. Juicy, we've had ghost stories on here before. And I'm deeply grateful that you shared it. I'm looking for more out there now. Werewolves, I could use a werewolf story, Stomping Jen.
I have not met anybody who knows any werewolves. Although,
go ahead, Juicy, please.
If you go into Hello Holyoke, there was like a flying saucer a couple of months ago. That a whole bunch of people saw. I didn't see it, but one of my friends did. And they were very like adamant that this was completely weird and new. And I'm like excited. We need something. Some species to come and slap us.
I am going to be investigating this later this evening on Facebook. I will be doing an investigation into this flying saucer because I am interested in aliens.
Holyoke. Okay.
Yeah. If anyone listening has a vampire story, reach out to me. I want to hear about vampires. Stomping Jen? Mm-hmm. You want me to stop talking? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Juicy D. As much as I am enjoying our time together, Stomping Jen, it's the hour is growing late and she is getting frustrated. Every word that comes out of my mouth. So
this is the point in the night where when that happens, he starts going longer and longer and longer and longer and longer.
Juicy D. I can't thank you enough. I think these types of candid conversations are important. This is an important subject. Thank you for coming on and talking with us. Seriously.
Yes,
we really appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. This was super fun.
Stomping Jen.
Yes.
Thank you for being a co-host.
Oh, thank you.
And accepting my conical puffy nipples.
Thank you for...
I appreciate it.
Thank you for putting all these beautiful questions together and facilitating this conversation.
Okay. Whoops.
That
needs to
really
be a little
low.
loud. There we go.
Alrighty.
All right. Our listeners.
Yes.
Thank you for continuing to listen. We appreciate it. If you enjoy what you heard, if you're not already, please subscribe, download our episodes, share with a friend. Right?
Yeah.
What else?
Be safe.
Be safe out there. Yeah. And we're all going to go around and do a bye now. Okay. We're going to start with you, Stomping Jen.
Why start with me?
Why? Because I want to start with you.
All right, people. Bye now.
Juicy D, give us a bye now.
Bye now.
All right, people. You heard it. Bye now.
This world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate. Those who have freedom will understand also its heavy responsibility. That all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, and that the sources, scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made disappear from the earth. And that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed by the binding force of mutual respect and love. I shall never cease to do what little I can to help the world advance along that road.